Journey Obstructed Views, the show where a couple of guys in a couple of countries drink a couple of beers and discuss a stadium somewhere in the world and their experiences there. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And we're excited to be here with you tonight. Before we get started, please take a second, subscribe to the Stadium Journey YouTube channel, like the video, leave a comment if you're so inclined. Check out www.stadiumjourney.com, as always, for all of our fantastic content. So let's get started. Dave, what are you drinking tonight?
So I had a moment, went to the beer fridge, pulled something out, went, where the heck did this come from?
That beer fridge is still producing beer? It's
and
August.
Then...
No, it's September.
I know. And then I actually read the fine print and went, oh, yeah, I bought this beer. So this was from my Eastern voyage, and it's from Fredericton, New Brunswick, home of the multinational champion UNB Reds hockey team, which I guess they're in trouble now that the NCAA is paying people and they're losing all their under the table paid players or whatever. But anyway, I have a Simeon Jones River Valley Ale from Picaroons Brewing Company in Fredericton, New Brunswick. It's pretty good, actually. It reminds me of, my favorite beer is a Belgian Trappist beer, which is brewed by monks in a monastery. It's pretty snooty and bougie. And this is probably the closest non-Belgian beer I found to that. So I'm actually enjoying it. It's like a Rickard's Red, but sort of turned up a notch. So far, so good. What do you got?
Okay, so my last few beers that I've brought to the show have been chosen more so for their name than for their flavor profile, and tonight's no different. Tonight's beer is called Illegal Ninja Moves. Aha. And the can is featuring this Napoleon Dynamite looking kind of guy doing some, I don't know if he's doing ninja moves, he's doing dance moves, but the beer is called Illegal Ninja Moves. It's by Proclamation Brewing Company in Warwick, Rhode Island. It's American Pale Ale. As you all know, if you've been following along with our show for several years, not right up my alley. Still a good beer. I'm starting to, as I'm exposing myself to the wide world of beers, starting to come around to some of these more bitter, heavier beers. So IPAs, APAs, New England Pale Ales. I still couldn't tell you what the difference is between all of them, but still, I'm starting to enjoy them a little bit more than I used to. I used to go, ooh, I don't like it. But now, like, you know what? These aren't bad. So yeah, this Illegal Ninja Moves. Not an illegal beer, but the moves are illegal. So if we were visiting today's destination, we might be drinking, and Dave, you told me you actually might have had this beer.
I think
you might be drinking, you might be drinking a Tropical Bay IPA. It's fun to rhyme. From by Cane Bay Brewing in Miami, Florida, because today we're talking about loanDepot Park, home of the Miami Marlins. Before we get started, let's take a look at the Stadium Vitals.
So here we are. We're ready to talk some Miami Marlins baseball. I probably want to talk Florida Marlins baseball, but, we're not going to go there. Well, maybe we will. But anyway, welcome our Stadium Journey colleague, Richard Smith, who is fresh off of his trip from trip to Florida. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
So we have a bit of a different perspective here. I went to what was then Marlins Park in the pre-Derek Jeter, still Jeffrey Loria age, and you have gone in, I believe was it both the post Jeter era or the during Jeter era?
I think it's both post Jeter.
Okay.
And of course, I went to Little L loanDepot Park. Not a big L at the start, little L at the start. Yes, that's a pretty bad name, but we're sort of used to those names at this point.
So what do you think of the changes that were made?
Well, I don't know all of them because, like I said, I wasn't there pre-Jeter, but I know that the infamous, famous, whatever way you want to call it, statue that was out in center field is now outside the park, and the area where it is now a club. And when I was there the first time last year, the club was you're supposed to have a ticket to the club, and then at one point I was walking past, and they were welcoming anyone who walked into that club. And then this year it looked like it was a free for all; anyone could go in. So it just sort of seems like they don't, especially where that was, they don't know what to do. And I think that what I've heard, and you can probably explain a little bit more about the Jeter or pre-Jeter era, was they've sort of just taken away some of the maybe fun to the park, maybe I guess.
Well, I used to get flack because I really liked Marlins Park. I ranked it. We did rankings. I ranked it pretty high, and people thought I was nuts. But what I liked about it is it was kind of at the back end of all these new stadiums, and they tried to do so much to make it stand out, to make it different. The Homer is actually the name of the statue. So I will recuse myself here. I have freshly read Jeffrey Loria's book. It was horrible. Yeah. I can't stand him. He's terrible. But that being said, he was an art guy. He was a huge proponent of art, and that was his baby. And he wanted it in center field, and there were a whole lot of animatronics to it. So one of the things that he commented on in putting it outside is it wasn't built for that.
No.
So it's probably, if not already, going to end up in disrepair because it was built to be inside.
I did not notice the condition of it. I did walk by, but it was raining at the time.
Okay.
One of those nice little hot summer rains in Miami, and you actually are glad that it's a indoor stadium. So I didn't see that, but yeah, I have a feeling it is really not made for that. Now, I also like the stadium, loanDepot Park, Marlins Park, what do you want to call it? I like it too. Now, is it ever going to be as high up as PNC Park and Oriole Park and Fenway and Wrigley and Target? You could keep going on. It's never going to be that high on our list. It's still a pretty nice park. It's going to be way down our list because there's much more exciting, maybe more traditional parks. But one thing I like about loanDepot Park is it honestly, to me, it screams Miami. Now, I wish those things like the Homer statue was still there and some of those more fun things that look like Loria did actually do.
Green walls. That was one thing that kind of stood out to me. The outfield walls were all green, which was like, and not just like, grass green, like this kind of bright, vibrant green. And, you'll probably see it in the pictures because we'll have a bit of a mix. But like that was one of the Jeter things. Like, oh, we can't have that. Baseball is not that color. Walls are blue or dark, black or whatever. So that was one thing. They went through a lot to put the aquariums behind home plate, right? And they had to test the glass. And I heard something about how they had batters trying to hit the ball as hard as they could into this aquarium glass to make sure it was solid. But, they got rid of those for signage. Now, I was a little surprised from your pictures in your review that the bobblehead museum is still there.
It's still there, and they make sure it shakes so that, like, when you walk by, the bobbleheads are still shaking. So honestly, it is one of the big highlights of that stadium is you have to walk by the bobblehead museum, closely look at them all, but just enjoy that they are literally bobbling, and it's just a great little thing. Now, I did enjoy that. Now, one thing I was a little, I wouldn't say put off by, but maybe I was less impressed was they had a really nice history of the Marlins. And honestly, they've won 2 World Series since they formed. That's not bad. They've been there, 30 years now. They've now moved it up to a higher level in the stadium, and it's a level that less people are going to go to. And now it sort of seems like an afterthought.
I bet.
Luckily, the bobblehead museum seems like, in fact, they replaced it with a food court, but I will say it's a food court that has some cheap eats at it. It's got one whole stand that's dedicated to cheaper eats. So yeah, that's sort of not good, but at the same time, they did replace it with something that's useful. But they put it someplace no one's going to go to. Um, I hope they never move the bobblehead museum because that is just that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was definitely a highlight. I remember when the park opened and it was kind of like the thing that everyone talked about. Now, according to Jeffrey Lurie, now I'll be honest, his book, I'm not really sure how much truth there was to it.
Mm-hmm.
But according to him, a lot of that collection was his. And he had mentioned that he was donating it somewhere else or whatever. So I was a little surprised to see it was still there. But yeah, definitely a highlight. And maybe, over time, obviously, bobbleheads have become such a thing that maybe his collection has been moved out and replaced with stuff that the team has put out there. And
There's a lot of newer bobbleheads. I did notice there were some newer, obviously Marlins ones, but other teams. So there's a chance that his original collection is gone, but it's still there. And I hate to say it, it may be the most distinctive highlight of that stadium.
yeah. It's kind of interesting, and you could let me know your take on this. I think the biggest detractor from loanDepot Park or Marlins Park is the team.
Yeah.
Because how the ownership has treated that team permeates through everything.
Yep.
So, you're right. They won 2 World Series. And I want to say that maybe 3 years after each of those World Series, every single player from those teams were gone, right? And it wasn't followed up by, we're going to spend a whole lot of money. The opening of Marlins Park was controversial in that they spent a whole lot of money. They brought in Jose Reyes and Mark Burley and all of these guys. And
Charlie Huff was the first pitcher.
Sorry?
Charlie Huff was the first pitcher.
Oh, yeah, that in the expansion era, yeah, that's true. But they brought in all these big money guys, and then it didn't work out that first year that Marlins Park was open, and they traded them all and brought the salary cap from here to rock bottom again. Like the best year attendance wise comparatively was the first year, and they were 18th in attendance in the league. Every other year, the highest they've been is like 27th. And I think that's this year because there's 2 minor league parks below them. So
And they're a fairly competitive team too. I mean, yeah, they're 19 places or 19 games out of the lead, but they're in third. They're not in fifth of their thing. So, and when I went to see them a couple weeks ago, they were against the Phillies, and it was obviously the Phillies a better team. Phillies were going to win that division, but the Marlins were not out of it. So they have decent teams. It's just it's not super well run team. I mean, you compare it to the Rays, where the Rays also don't get people coming, and they're playing in a minor league stadium, but they think they have a better run organization. In fact, they may have one of the better ones in all of baseball. Yeah, the Marlins are pretty bad about that. Now, another thing is the 2 games I've been to at loanDepot Park. One was against the Phillies, so of course it was loaded with Phillies fans. And last year it was a Cubs game. Well, you know what the whole crowd was basically wearing? Cubs gear. In fact, the game that I went to at Marlins Park this year was 2 games after the sort of the infamous Phillies Karen incident. And guess where my seats were? It was actually in the same section and same rows that she was sitting, because I did not do a credential.
That's crazy.
So I thought that was pretty funny. It's just, it's this type of stadium. It's going to get more people from out of town. Not to mention all the people who maybe are from Philadelphia who now live in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. That's who goes to that stadium. And it doesn't help that the organization is just not great.
Yeah. And there's no staying power. Like, even teams that are bad, they try and keep some guys there and market those players. And the revolving door just seems to move so quickly. And, who was the last? I mean, the last 2 big names that the Marlins really had, I feel, were Jose Fernandez, who, had a tragic early death. And Giancarlo Stanton, who was traded to the Yankees by Derek Jeter, right? Which was loaded with controversy. And now it's like they have that same revolving door that the Rays have, absolutely, but they don't have that success that the Rays have enjoyed on the field. So
I'm looking at the roster right now. I can't even tell you who the star of their team is.
I couldn't tell you one player on that team.
I mean, I could tell you a couple because they got traded from the Orioles, and I live in Maryland, and I knew that they got traded. And then they, of course, played fairly well for the Marlins as soon as they got. So that's the only ones I know. And I've been to games, and I still don't know any of the players.
I think the other thing that's kind of significant about this park is the location, and not significant in a good way. I mean, it's funny. It's 2.5 miles from where the Heat play, but it's 2.5 miles inland in like this super residential area, Little Havana. And if you have a good look at what's around it, it's houses. That's really all that's there. There's nothing else that's going to draw someone into that area.
Well, and I have a really good perspective of it because I've gone now. I've driven to the stadium. I've walked from the stadium, and I've Ubered to the stadium. Now, I will say there is public transportation, but the closest stop on the, I think what they call that, not the metro, whatever, the metro rail, the closest stop is like 1.5 miles away, and it's not like an easy walk. It also is not near, it's not far from a major highway, but it's also not near a major highway, so you're going to have to go on surface roads. Now, when I drove there, it really wasn't that bad, and our Uber didn't really have a big problem, but you could still have some problems because it's not a quick on and off the highway. Also, you said it's in Little Havana. Now, after the game, this last game, I decided to walk down to the heart of Little Havana, which is Calle Ocho or 8th Avenue, the little more sort of tourism central spot of Little Havana. It's only a mile walk. It's not an easy mile walk. You're crossing a whole bunch of roads that sometimes don't even have good crosswalks. You're walking through a neighborhood that actually is totally safe, but it may be late at night. I might not want to go through, but it's probably safe. But I might question myself a little bit. So you're in Little Havana, but you can't take advantage of all the cool Little Havana stuff. You're not near a highway. There's no transportation. It does have really nice parking options. It's got parking garages on all 4 corners of the stadium. You don't have to pay when you go into the parking. You pay by an app. So really, there's no backups getting into the parking. You just boom, boom, you go in. I mean, I wouldn't suggest this to anyone, but I've heard that sometimes they're not even checking if you actually paid. But Stadiumjourney's not going to pick up your towing bill if you do that. Pay
on the app.
Yeah, or take you on your own. So it's fine. It really is not bad. And the Uber situation was nice. It had a dedicated pickup and drop off lot, but it's still not a great location. There's nothing really close to it. There's a couple restaurants on one side. There's like I think there's like a KFC or something nearby. I think it's a Church's Chicken actually. There's nothing there. It's in Little Havana, which is one of the coolest neighborhoods. You can't take advantage of it. Now, we should say that the reason it's there is because it's where the Orange Bowl used to be.
Yes.
And they had that piece of land, and Orange Bowl was crumbling down, and let's put it there. This is not where it should be. And if you are going to put it in Little Havana, put it near where all the cool stuff is. There's some great things in Little Havana. If you could take advantage of like Old Savannah, Ball and Chain, the El Pub, all these great restaurants down in the heart of Little Havana and Calle Ocho, that would be an amazing baseball experience. Go get a drink, go get some Cuban sandwiches, get a mojito, jump over to the stadium. You can't do that.
It would be interesting to see if they would have built Marlins Park, or I keep saying Marlins Park, loanDepot Park now, because like the whole strategy has changed, right? Like nobody's building just a park anymore or a stadium anymore. They want like 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres around to have all those things, all those post-game kind of things and pre-game kind of things. Paul always talks about the Patriot Place and how and I don't know if that was the first one or not, but it seems like everybody who's talking about, especially in the NFL, they're talking about, well, we need all this space because we want to have this work-life play area. Atlanta is a perfect example of that. And, you know, loanDepot Park was built on budget, on time, which is bizarre in and of itself. It was probably one of the first, really green stadiums in that, where they got the LEED certification and everything. But wow, it seems like it hasn't aged well, but it hasn't really aged. It's not that old.
And I mean, we're sounding sort of negative about it, but honestly, I like the park. It's a fun place to watch a game. It really is. And I have to say, some people are going to hate an indoor park, but when you're in Miami, I mean, we went only 2 weeks ago. Still, it was September. You know how hot and stuffy outside it was? It was rainy. That game would have been delayed anyway. And it would have just been humid and miserable. You're in this nice air-conditioned park, and I know that it's retractable roof, but I don't think they open it that often. And I've also heard that when they do open it up, they still pump the air conditioning in. So, which probably ruins their LEED certification, but whatever.
Possibly.
It really is a pleasant place to see a game. It's never going to be the top stadium. It doesn't mean you should replace it. It's a good stadium.
I had a lot of fun there, and a lot of my negative is just seeing how it's changed, and not for the better. And probably like when I went, there weren't a ton of people there, which sometimes isn't a bad thing. You don't you can stretch out or whatever. You're not squashed. You're not running into people and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you need to have a better support from your fans. You also have to cater to your fans better, and let's face it, coming to see the Bobblehead Museum, 60 times a year isn't going to cut it.
And the one thing I noticed about the crowd was it seemed like a minor league crowd. And I don't mean that in that they're not very smart or minor league. I meant that it was more families and groups. So like when you go to your local minor league stadium, and I've been there for, I think, Dominican Republic night. This last time was first responder night. And I'm seeing groups of families of 10 people and stuff. So it seems like that kind of park. So I think they are maybe trying really hard, but it doesn't have that hardcore baseball fans. It's a minor league kind of crowd. And that sounds negative, but it's not. It's not. It's a different kind of crowd. But I think that's also a Miami thing too. Now I am looking at the map overhead of it. There is some green space near it. There's some surface lots, so they could potentially take advantage and build some stuff. I'm just not sure the Marlins ownership seems like they're the type that's going to be able to do that. And like I said, my main gripe is you're in Little Havana and you're not taking advantage of Little Havana.
Well, if we've learned anything from, I think the Florida Panthers are a great example. There's market there for sports. I mean, the Florida Panthers were dead, 5 years ago. Suddenly they get some success to the top level. They've won the Stanley Cup. Now it's a super hot ticket. So the opportunity is there for the Marlins. And, I think it's what's going to come first. Are the people going to be able to show up and push the ownership to reinvest? Or is it going to have to come on the field first and draw those people in? We're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our look at loanDepot Park in Miami, Florida, home of the Miami Marlins. Richard, thanks for joining us. And we hope to see you all on the road again real soon. Cheers.